I am not good at biting my tongue. Not my strong suit, not my specialty. But language is my specialty. I am a professor of English, critical reading and writing, and ultimately thinking. And what I'm going to be doing here is stopping conversations to reveal the hidden meaning, well, not so hidden meaning, in the language that people choose to use to express themselves. Language really does reveal so much about a person and how they view the world. And there is actual statistics now that exist that prove that support that. It's been proven now that words are a reflection not just of how we communicate, but truly how we see the world and the people in it. It's how we see each other. But more specifically about what I'm actually going to be doing here, I'm going to be not just coming from my perspective as a language professor, but I'm also coming from the perspective as a single child-free woman in my 30s. I seriously can't tell you how many times a conversation has stopped my brain in its tracks, related one way or another to my life as a single, as in not married, child-free woman. There are things that are outright insulting, but then there are also the more sneaky ways, whether it be minimizing how my time is spent or just kind of placing a lesser value on my existence because of the fact that I am not married or raising children. So to tie it all together, and the more I think about language, the more I teach language, and the more that I interact even with younger single women in college and hear about their experiences, their lives, and then thinking about my own now as someone who is in the back half of their 30s and been in and out of relationships and now surrounded by a lot of people who are in relationships, and just seeing the ways in which we as individuals and as a society talk to and about single women. I'm intrigued by it. I want to pull it apart. Because as a professor, a writer, and a general language junkie, I do find myself curious about the deconstruction of narratives and phrasing that pigeonholes single, child-free women as bitter, lonely, sad, rigid, demanding, etc. I mean, the list goes on, right? Instead of happy, free, independent, wise, all the things that I view as traits of single, child-free women who are supporting themselves in adulthood and doing it well. I cannot introduce this series, this subject, without giving the highest amount of credit to Jennie Young. Jennie Young is a PhD in rhetoric and creator of the burned haystack dating method, and she has reframed my thinking on language and our conversations around language in two ways. And I'll explain a little bit more about her in a second, but I really want to speak to my motivation. She has set a wonderful example that you can have an informed academic conversation about rhetoric regarding a subject that some people might view as superfluous or silly, as in the subject of dating, right? So she uses applied rhetoric to analyze conversations specifically in dating between men and women, and specifically analyzing communication from men to women on dating apps typically. And she's also motivated me because what I've noticed from her community is that women are interested in language and how it is used against them, about them. And I think it's a conversation worth having, because understanding patterns in language, I think, is actually a really undervalued skill. And being a strong communicator is also a skill. And the idea here is it's not about becoming more paranoid or overly analytical about every single communication coming your way. It's about building your knowledge so you're a more wise and informed person, and then therefore not only a stronger communicator in how you present yourself, but you're able to weed through some of the nonsense that will inevitably come your way over the course of your life as a human being, right? And specifically as women, we are all too familiar with manipulation, coercion, hostility, aggression, and Jennie's work specifically is focused on the safety of women. And while I'm hoping to have a laugh here, which we do have some laughs over in the community that Jennie Young has built around the burned haystack dating method, and I do have the hope of making you laugh along the way in these conversations, I do. And I'm sure some of it will be worth laughing at. But there is that added benefit of you are safer if you are more skilled at spotting manipulation. And again, with this conversation that I'm going to be having, the conversation with myself or with you, it's going to be focused on how people talk to and about single women. And that will inevitably encompass manipulative language. And who doesn't want to cut manipulation out of their lives? I mean, Sounds great, right? I mean, sounds like it'll save energy, hurt, and for me, it ultimately comes back to allowing myself to see someone as they are representing themselves through their language. I had been in a relationship with somebody that used to tell me that words don't matter. I know, which is crazy to tell somebody that you love, that who's an English professor and a writer, that words don't matter. The relationship died, but my opposition to his sentiment remains that words matter deeply. And that's what I'm going to prove, or, contribute to the conversation, proving that words do matter over the course of this series as I talk about what people are saying to and about single women. And that will include real communications of things people have said to me. And I'll also incorporate things from our culture, what is happening out in the zeitgeist and being said, again, on the subject of being a single child-free woman. And just deconstructing it in hopes of, again, having a laugh, but also regaining perspective on what is important and where we should place value, as in the opinions of others, who we're listening to, who we're giving credit to, who we're allowing to affect us emotionally, and the things that people say and allowing that to affect us emotionally. I'm trying to work against that. And understanding when someone is trying to be intentionally hurtful or manipulative through rhetoric, through the rhetoric that they have chosen to use in how they communicate to you, I think can ultimately give us, a greater peace of mind. So before I get into the last leg here, just a little more background on Jennie Young, because again, she deserves all the credit in the world for really helping me reframe how I want to approach this subject, and even just wanting to put it out there as this little video series. I feel like I should just read you her bio because it's worth it. And you can't see, but I've got my little laptop here. This is my little living room podcast studio. So Jennie is a professor of writing and rhetoric at the University of Wisconsin, Green Bay, specializing in applied rhetoric, humor, and feminism. She holds a PhD in rhetoric and discourse studies from Case Western Reserve University and a satire writing certificate from Second City, Chicago. She's got major credentials when it comes to language and rhetoric. So I highly recommend checking her out in general, and the burned haystack dating method, especially if you are a single woman using dating apps. You need to be reading what she is putting out, because it will just, again, this goes back to what I was saying before about saving time and energy on people who are not for you, and picking out patterns in language to help you weed through the people, again, who are not best for you. So yeah, Jennie's work is undeniably the root of what I'm trying to do here. So I'm going to be citing her constantly, I'm sure. I'm going to be bringing up her work. She has a book coming out too called Burn the Haystack, and it's about the burned haystack dating method. Briefly, a little tidbit on that. The idea is to burn the haystack of people, again, who are not for you, to find your needle amongst the haystack. You're looking for specific signals, and we'll get into definitions and things as we go, but you're looking for certain things, patterns we'll call them, in the language that would help you weed out somebody who's not right for you. I guess in best case scenario is just not right for you, but worst case scenario is manipulative or harmful in some way. So I've used the word rhetoric a lot so far, and perhaps you're not totally familiar with that word and what it means, and that's totally fine. Like I tell my students, we don't know something until we know it. And I feel like rhetoric's one of those words that gets tossed around in the culture enough that you hear it a lot, and I think people have maybe assumed they know what it means, or maybe think it's a more complicated definition than it actually is. But rhetoric is really just language used to persuade or influence other people. They use the language to persuade or influence. And taking it a step further, there are specific techniques. There are figures of speech. There are, again, patterns. Rhetoric is used all around us all the time. Advertisers use rhetoric to persuade consumers to buy a product. Lawyers use rhetoric in a courtroom to persuade a jury. It's not always nefarious, but it can be. Cult leaders use rhetoric to persuade people to follow them. Dishonest people use rhetoric to manipulate you to believe them. Cultural rhetoric might have you believing that it's a victim's fault for a crime, say blaming a victim of assault for going up to a man's hotel room. She should have known better, or what did she expect? That's language that frames cultural perceptions. Ultimately, rhetoric contributes to opinions and stereotypes, so it can go in a negative direction. So ultimately, what I'm going to be doing here is unpacking some rhetoric that I personally am tired of regarding single women, child-free women, and we're going to talk about cultural attitudes. Also, I just hope to extend some sanity to other single child free women out there, that you're not the only one catching all that heat. I know that there are a lot of small cuts that happen along the way. Death by 1,000 cuts, right? But we're still standing. With rhetoric, they're not always aware, which, is their responsibility, of course, but there can be a lack of awareness, which might then be an opportunity for you to gently course correct if the situation feels like something you're comfortable. When you become comfortable with deconstructing rhetoric, which is what I hope you learn here with me, you can maybe guide somebody in the direction of how their language might be harmful. And that's actually, I am going to be talking about a conversation I had recently where I did attempt to steer somebody into framing a situation a little bit differently in how they speak about women. It was about women, of course. If you are a single child-free woman out there, and maybe you will find some, not just a giggle with a fellow single child-free person, but a little bit of, again, sanity, that it's not in your head. People are saying crazy stuff to you. I know, because people say crazy stuff to me, and I'm just, like I said at the beginning, some things have stopped my brain in its functioning tracks. Like, I hear the tires screeching, right? That's why I want to have a laugh about it. That's why I want to talk about it. It's also in response to the idea that the cultural attitude is that a single child-free woman, especially in your 30s, especially above 35, should feel bad about it for some reason, or, it's their fault. And if anyone hasn't told you lately that it's not your fault or it's not bad at all, and that there are a lot of beautiful things about a single child-free life, I hope that maybe you'll hear that from what I'm talking about too. Because I do think having a single child-free life is amazing. It took me a long time to get in the position of appreciating it, and I've been in several long-term relationships, but I really appreciate my own solitude now, the peace in my life now. So maybe you'll get a slice of that here with me. I don't know. It's the only life we've got, so why not enjoy it? Why not see the positives? And why not really lean into those? So I hope that we can maybe find a bit of that together here. So this series goes out to my fellow untethered ones. I hope you enjoy the conversations that are about to unfold here. And I hope that, single people, I hope you come to pay a greater attention to what the people you're dating and talking to are saying to you and about you. Also, just what people are saying to and about you that you're not dating, but they're degrading your life as a single child-free person. You don't have to participate in that, and you don't have to buy into feeling bad. And if you're listening to this, watching this, and you're in a relationship, well, good, because there's probably some stuff you need to unpack about what, if you're with a guy, I'm not going to limit this entirely to heterosexual communications, but especially if you're with a guy, you might be interested in some of the things. I am going to be unpacking a lot of things that come from the mouths of men. So you might want to pay attention too, okay? If you are in a relationship, you might figure out maybe you're with somebody who's super manipulative, and then you can cut them loose, And married people, well, I don't know what to tell you. You got the state involved, so. My first episode will be coming very soon. I plan to do one about every 2 weeks, dropping on Thursdays, and I am really excited just to see what comes of these conversations, and I hope that you participate and leave me comments, and I would love to be in conversation with you about the things that we're going to unpack here. So, till next time, let me stop you right there. Can you hear that? That's drilling in my basement. This is apartment living, folks. This is not a podcast studio. This is a 1-bedroom apartment. Just doing my best. Okay.